Tuesday, 9th of June 2026. 3 Asia-Pacific AI stories before your first coffee. Asia's data center corridor, stretching from Tokyo to Singapore, is now absorbing the majority of global AI infrastructure capital, with hyperscaler commitments across the region exceeding $100 billion in announced spending over the next 5 years. The build-out is concentrated around 3 choke points: NVIDIA and AMD's chip duopoly for GPU supply, sovereign power grids already running near capacity in Malaysia, Thailand and parts of Japan, and a land and fibre bottleneck in key metros like Johor Bahru and Batam. The scale marks a structural shift from Asia as a manufacturing base to Asia as the primary compute layer for frontier AI workloads. Why it matters: operators planning inference or training deployments in Southeast Asia now face 18 to 36-month lead times on rack power in the most sought-after clusters, which means site selection decisions made today lock in cost structures through 2028. Capital allocators should watch 2 signals closely. First, whether sovereign wealth funds in Singapore and the Gulf continue co-investing in greenfield campuses or start demanding equity stakes in the AI tenants themselves. And second, how grid authorities in Malaysia and Indonesia handle industrial tariff reform as AI loads compete with manufacturing for baseload power. The second-order effect worth tracking is talent. As physical infrastructure scales, the shortage of data center engineers, power systems specialists, and AI operations staff across ASEAN is becoming a binding constraint that could slow commissioning timelines even where capital and permits are in place. Apple unveiled its redesigned Siri at WWDC 2025. Promising on-device large language model integration across iPhones, iPads and Macs, but confirmed that full functionality will roll out unevenly across Asia, with Mandarin Chinese, Cantonese and several major regional languages missing from the initial supported list. The upgrade requires an iPhone 16 or later, immediately narrowing the addressable user base in price-sensitive markets like India, Indonesia, and the Philippines, where older models dominate. Apple's China timeline remains undefined, complicated by Beijing's requirement that generative AI services pass a security review before public deployment. Why it matters: for builders shipping apps that rely on Siri intents or Apple's on-device intelligence layer, the language and device gaps create a fragmented user experience across Asia's largest markets. Developers targeting Southeast Asia or Greater China cannot assume Siri's new capabilities exist on the other end, which means fallback architectures stay mandatory rather than optional. Capital allocators watching Apple's services revenue in the region should note that delayed AI features hand local competitors, particularly Baidu with its Ernie integration on domestic Android handsets and Samsung with Galaxy II already live in Korean and Japanese, a longer runway to lock in users. The second-order effect to track is whether Beijing's GenAI security review process becomes a template that other Asian regulators reference when gating foreign AI assistance on consumer hardware. Seoul's Kospi and Taipei's TAIEX both touched fresh record highs this week on surging AI chip demand before sliding sharply in the same sessions, exposing the concentration risk now embedded in Asia's 2 most chip-heavy benchmarks. Samsung Electronics, SK Hynix and TSMC account for an outsized share of each index's market cap, meaning a handful of AI beneficiaries are doing most of the lifting. The whipsaw pattern mirrors what happened on the Nasdaq earlier this year, but the exposure is arguably more acute in Asia, where semiconductor names dominate index weightings to a degree not seen in other major markets. Why it matters? Capital allocators running Asia equity mandates are now effectively making a leveraged bet on AI chip demand, whether they intend to or not. Passive flows into KOSPI and TAIEX tracker funds concentrate money into the same 3 or 4 names, amplifying both the upside and the drawdown risk. For builders, the valuation wobble signals that public markets are starting to price in execution risk on AI revenue conversion, not just capacity expansion. The second order effect to watch is whether index providers or local regulators revisit single stock concentration caps, a move that would force rebalancing and redirect capital toward mid-cap AI infrastructure plays across the region. That is your AI in Asia briefing for today. Stay sharp, build well, see you tomorrow.